Okay, today we're going to go over the Unit 2 Inequalities review to get ready for our test. And number 1 is asking for us to circle all the answer choices that could be a solution to the inequality given. So the first one is saying x is greater than -5. So if I replace my x with each one of those numbers choices that we have, we'll see if it's a true statement or not a true statement. So my first one is saying -8 is greater than -5. Is that true? No, that's not true. How about the next one? It'd be 0 is greater than -5. Does that make a true statement? Yes. So B would be a correct choice. How about C? It's 4 is greater than -5. Yes, 4 is greater than -5, so that would be true. And the last one, -3 is greater than -5. Yes, -3 is greater than -5. So number 2, again, let's start replacing. We have -8 is less than or equal to a +4. That is a true statement. 0 is less than or equal to a +4, also a true statement. 4 is less than or equal to a +4, true statement. -3 is less than or equal to a +4, also a true statement. Number 3, I've got -8 is less than -3. Yes, that is a true statement. 0 is less than -3. No, that is not. 4 is less than -3. No, that is not. And then -3 is less than -3. No, that one is not. Okay, on number 4 and 5, it is asking us to graph the following inequalities on the number line provided. So my variable is already isolated, so I just simply need to put the number that they've given me, which is -7. I'm going to draw a circle where -7 is, and because it is an equal to, I'm going to fill in my circle. And then it's a greater than sign, so I'm going to shade to the right. Number 5, my number, it will be number 10. My circle will be remain an empty circle because it does not have an equal to. And then I am shading to the left. Number 6 is asking us to write an inequality. So I'll use x for my variable, and here's -7. And it is a closed circle, so that means we will have an equal to, and then it is shading to the right, which means these are greater than numbers, so I will have my greater than sign. Number 7, again, I'll use x for my variable, and then 12 for my number. It is an empty circle, or an open circle, so that way I don't have the equal to sign, and then it is shaded to the left, so that means it will be a less than. So the next section is asking us to solve and then graph each of the following inequalities. So on number 8, my x is not by itself, so I need to get rid of my 9. I will do that by doing the opposite operation, so I'll be adding 9 to both sides. That will leave my x. I bring my inequality sign down, and -3 plus 9 will give me a -4. So I'll go over here to graph. I'll put -4 on my number line. Again, it's going to be an open circle or an empty circle, and it is greater than, so I will shade to the right. Number 9, again, x is not by itself yet, so I need to get rid of the 11 by subtracting 11 on both sides, leaving my x. My inequality sign, 20 minus 11 is going to be a +9. So I'll put 9 on my number line. This time I will have a closed circle because it does have the equal to, and it is a less than sign, so I will shade to the left. Number 10, this time this is a multiplication problem, and the opposite is to divide. So I'm dividing by a -8. So remember what happens with our inequality sign when we multiply or divide by a negative number? I'm going to end up flipping my inequality sign around. So right now it is a greater than. We need to change it to a less than. And then 40 divided by -8 left me -5. So I'll put -5 on my number line. There is my open circle, and then I am shading to the left. Number 11, this, remember, a fraction is a division problem, so the opposite of dividing is to multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides by my denominator of 4. Leaves x on the left. I've got -7 times 4, which is -28. And then did I multiply or divide by a negative number? No, I multiplied by positive, so my inequality sign is going to stay the same. So my number that goes on my number line will be negative 28. This time I will have a closed circle because I have the equal to, and then it is a greater than sign, so I will shade to the right. Okay, 12 again, I need to isolate my variable of x before I can graph it, so I'll need to distribute my 4, and that I'll get 4x minus 4 greater than or equal to, a negative 4x plus 2. Then I will need to move my x to one side. I have x's on both sides of my inequality sign, so I like to move it to the left. So I'm going to get rid of this negative 4x by adding 4x to both sides. And then that will leave me 4x plus 4x will be 8x minus 4 greater than or equal to, the negative 4x plus 4x is gone, and it just leaves my positive 2. My next step then would be add or subtract. I need to get rid of this 4, so I'm going to be adding to get rid of it. So it has gone on the left. It leaves just my 8x greater than or equal to 2 plus 4 is 6. And my last step is to get rid of the 8. This is a multiplication, so that means we are dividing by 8 on both sides. So now my x is by itself. Did I multiply or divide by a negative? No. So my inequality sign is going to stay the same. I have 6 over 8. I can simplify that to 3 over 4. And it can stay a fraction. We don't have to change it to a decimal. My circle needs to be a closed circle because I have an equal to. And then it is greater than, so I will shade to the right. So number 13, same thing. I need to do some distributing to eliminate my parentheses. So I have 5 times 4, which is 20, plus 5 times x, which is 5x, less than or equal to 3 times 2, which is 6, plus 3 times x, which is 3x. Okay, let's get the x's on one side. I want to move them to the left, so I'm going to subtract 3x. From my right, I have to do the same thing on my left. So I'm going to have 20, and then 5x minus 3x is a positive 2x, less than or equal to 6, and these are gone. Now let's move our 20 over, so I'll subtract 20 on both sides. So 20 minus 20, that is gone. It leaves 2x. Less than or equal to 6 minus 20 will be a negative 14. Then divide both sides by 2. So you know my question coming up, right? Do I leave my inequality sign or do I flip? I have a negative 14 divided by 2. I end up with negative 7. Did I multiply or divide by a negative number? No. So I will leave my inequality sign as is. So I have a negative 7. I'm going to have a closed circle because of the equal to, and it is a less than, so I will shade to the left. Okay, number 14 says, entrance into Gaddiestown costs $7.50, and each game played costs $1. Using the inequality 7.50 plus G is less than or equal to 20, how many games can Caden play without spending more than $20? So basically they are telling us here's the $7.50 to get in, plus $1 for every game, and of course we cannot spend more than the $20. So if I try to solve for the G, that means I'm going to subtract my $7.50 from both sides. And when I do that, I have my G isolated. I didn't multiply or divide by a negative. 20 minus $7.50, that is going to leave me $12.50. So my G has to be less than or equal to $12.50. So which one of my answer choices would actually be less than or equal to $12.50? Well, the 11 would work, and he could play 12 games, but he couldn't play 13 and he couldn't play 14. So it says how many games can Caden play without spending more? So we can play 11 games, but we can play up to 12 games. So B is going to be the correct answer for number 14. Number 15, it says graph the solution set. So we have f is less than or equal to negative 3, or f is greater than or equal to positive 3. So again, I don't have to solve anything. My variables are already by themselves. My two numbers that I'm putting on my number line would be the negative 3 and a positive 3. So I'm going to look at this right now. F is less than negative 3. So there is my empty circle, and then I'm shading to the left. And now I'll do this one. F is greater than or equal to positive 3. So I will have a closed circle because the equal to, and I'm shading to the right. The next one is an and. So we know that an and, we should be shading towards the center, right? So I have my two numbers, which is negative 4 and a positive 2. So this inequality is saying R is greater than or equal to negative 4. So I will fill in my circle, and I'm going to shade to the right. But I'll hesitate at the number 2 because it says R is less than 2. So there's my empty circle, and then I'm shading to the left. Okay, number 17 says write a compound inequality for the graph. So because it is not shaded in the middle, this is going to be an OR problem. So we just have to write two inequalities. This first one is going this direction, so that's a less than. This is a filled in circle, so that would be an equal to. And the number is going to be negative 3. Or we have x, and this is a positive 3. It's shaded to the right, so it's greater than. It's a filled in circle, so it is an equal to. Number 18 is also a compound inequality. It is a double shaded area. It's in the middle, so we know this is going to be an and problem. So we can write x, and then it's going to the right, so x is greater than negative 5. And it's not a filled in circle, it's empty, so we don't have the equal to. And then x is less than 0. Again, it's an empty circle, so it is not an equal to. Or we could have written negative 5 is less than my x, which is less than 0. Either one of these would represent this graph. On number 19, it says solve and graph the compound inequality. So this time I have to solve them. My variables are not isolated. So let's add 3 to both sides on this first one. And that leaves me k less than a negative 7 plus 3 is a negative 4. And if I do the same thing over here, I'm going to be subtracting 5 from both sides of my inequality sign. That will leave me a k greater than or equal to 8 minus 5 is a positive 3. And this was an OR problem. So down here at negative 4, it's less than or equal to, so I'll be shading this direction. And then my k is greater than or equal to 3, so I'll fill this in, and I will shade to the right. Okay, the next one, we have our h, and it's in the middle. Our variable's in the center, so this is going to be an and problem. So I'm going to eliminate that 2 by subtracting, and remember I have to do it on all 3 sides. So now I have 3 is less than 3h. This is gone, which is less than or equal to 9. And then I get rid of this 3 by dividing by 3 on all 3 sides. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. I didn't divide by a negative, so it's I'm not switching my inequality signs. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So if I graph this, I'll have a positive 1, empty circle, and a positive 3 with a filled in circle. And I'm shading in between.